A U.S. Navy patrol boat is cruising through the Strait of Hormuz. Routine transit, standard formation, nothing unusual on radar. Then a contact appears. Then another. Then 5 more. 7 Iranian fast attack craft, closing at 47 knots, directly at the bow. No radio contact, no warning, no identification. The distance between them, less than 800 meters, closing every second. In the next 12 minutes, the Persian Gulf would witness something the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps had never experienced before. And it started with one officer making a decision that broke every peacetime protocol in the book. Welcome to Warfare Signal, where we break down the most critical military operations shaping global power. To understand what happened that day, you need to understand the Strait of Hormuz. It's the most important choke point on the planet. Roughly 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. Every day, approximately 21 million barrels of oil pass through this corridor. That's nearly a quarter of the world's total petroleum supply. For decades, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, the IRGCN, has used this choke point as a pressure tool. Their doctrine is simple: swarm tactics. Dozens of small, fast boats, typically Boghamar or Paycap class craft, armed with heavy machine guns, rocket launchers, and sometimes anti-ship missiles. They approach at high speed. They provoke. They test. They push. Most of the time, it's harassment, a show of force designed to send a message. This is our backyard, and we control the tempo. The U.S. Navy has dealt with these provocations for years. Standard procedure is measured response. Radio warnings on Channel 16. Flares. Warning shots if necessary. De-escalation is the priority. The last thing anyone wants is a shooting war in a corridor that feeds the global economy. But what happened on this particular morning was different. The date, according to after-action assessments later reviewed by CENTCOM, fell during a period of heightened tension. Iran had been conducting expanded naval exercises across the Persian Gulf. Intelligence reports indicated increased IRGCN activity near the strait, including nighttime rehearsals of swarming maneuvers. U.S. Naval Forces Central Command had raised the alert level for all patrols operating east of Bahrain. Additional electronic warfare assets had been moved into position. But the patrol boat that morning, a Mark VI patrol boat assigned to Coastal Riverine Squadron, was running a standard transit mission, crew of 10. Armed with 2 Browning .50 caliber machine guns and a Mk-44 minigun. Fast, maneuverable, but not built for sustained combat against a coordinated assault. At 0637 hours local time, the ship's surface search radar detected the first cluster of contacts emerging from behind Keshem Island. Initial classification: small craft, high speed, heading southeast. The radar operator flagged it to the officer in charge. At this point, there was no alarm. Small craft traffic near Keshem is common. Fishing boats, dhows, commercial traffic, all frequent the area. The system classified the contacts as civilian. That classification held for approximately 4 minutes. At 0641, the contacts changed course. All 7, simultaneously, direct intercept heading. This is where the IRGCN's tactic becomes clear. According to Naval War College exercises and previous incident analysis, the initial approach from behind the island masked the formation's true intent. By blending with commercial traffic and using the island's radar shadow, they delayed detection and classification by critical minutes. The officer in charge, a lieutenant with 2 previous Gulf deployments, made the first call at 0642. Radio warning on VHF, Channel 16. Standard language. Unknown vessels approaching on intercept course. This is U.S. Navy warship. Your intentions are unclear. Alter course immediately. No response. Second call at 0643. Same channel. Same message. More urgent. Nothing. The 7 craft were now at 600 meters and closing. Speed: 47 knots. At that velocity, they were covering roughly 24 meters per second. The math was brutal. less than 25 seconds to contact at current closure rate. Now here's the critical detail that made this encounter different from dozens of previous provocations. At 0644, the lead Iranian boat fired a burst across the patrol boat's bow. Not warning shots, a burst from what was later identified as a DSHK 12.7mm heavy machine gun. Rounds impacted the water less than 40 meters from the hull. In previous encounters, Iranian boats had come close. They had maneuvered aggressively. They had shouted threats. But live fire directed at a US Navy vessel changes the equation entirely. The lieutenant now had a decision. Rules of engagement authorized defensive response to hostile fire. But the political consequences of returning fire in the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most critical oil choke point, could cascade into something far beyond a tactical engagement. One wrong escalation, and insurance rates for every tanker in the Gulf spike overnight. Oil markets react within minutes. NATO allies demand explanations. Iran claimed self-defense. The entire diplomatic framework built around restraint collapses. 90 seconds. That's what communications intercepts later showed was the gap between the first burst and the lieutenant's decision. He ordered defensive posture, weapons free. But he didn't just respond. He activated the emergency beacon that connected directly to the USS Baton, an America-class amphibious assault ship operating 40 nautical miles west in the Central Gulf. That signal did something no Iranian commander had anticipated. At 6:45, the Baton's Combat Information Center received the alert. Within 90 seconds, the ship's air boss had two AH-1Z Viper attack helicopters spinning up on the flight deck. Simultaneously, a pair of MH-60S Seahawk helicopters already airborne on a logistics run were redirected to the patrol boat's coordinates. The IRGCN boats had rehearsed this scenario. War game projections suggested their doctrine assumed a 15 to 20 minute US response window. Enough time to harass, damage, even board a small vessel, then scatter back to Iranian territorial waters before heavier assets arrived. They calculated 15 minutes. They got 7. At 0647, the patrol boat's .50 caliber guns opened fire. The Mark 44 minigun, capable of 3,000 rounds per minute, laid a wall of suppressive fire across the lead boat's approach vector. The lead Boghamar took hits along the waterline. It didn't sink immediately, but it lost speed, dropping from 47 knots to under 10 in seconds. The remaining 6 boats split into 2 groups. 3 peeled left, 3 went right. Classic pincer. This is textbook IRGCN swarming doctrine, designed to overwhelm a single target's ability to engage in multiple directions simultaneously. But the lieutenant had already made the call that mattered. The Baton's helicopters were en route, and they were carrying AGM-114 Hellfire missiles. At 0649, just 4 minutes after the first shots, the 2 redirected Seahawks arrived on station. They weren't attack helicopters, but they carried door-mounted M240 machine guns, and, critically, they provided real-time targeting data back to the Baton's CIC. The Iranian boats now faced a different problem. They had planned for a surface engagement against a single patrol boat. They had not planned for overhead surveillance and precision targeting. At 0651, the first AH-1Z Viper arrived. Call sign, Venom 11. It came in low from the northwest, below 200 feet, using the morning haze as concealment. The lead pilot, according to sources familiar with the after-action report, acquired 3 targets within 15 seconds. The thermal imaging system on the Viper's AN/AAQ-30 target sight pod made the fast boats light up like flares against the cool morning water. Venom 11 fired 2 Hellfire missiles in rapid succession. The first struck the nearest Boghamar amidships. A Hellfire warhead carries approximately 20 pounds of high explosive. Against a fiberglass-hulled fast boat displacing less than 15 tons, the effect was catastrophic. The boat disintegrated. Debris scattered, across a 100-meter radius. The second Hellfire hit the trailing boat in the right-hand group. Same result. The craft broke apart before anyone aboard could react. Now here's where the situation could have gone differently. The remaining 4 operational Iranian boats had a choice: scatter and retreat to Iranian waters, approximately 6 nautical miles northeast, or continue the engagement. Doctrine said retreat. Self-preservation said retreat. 2 boats turned and ran. 2 did not. According to the after-action assessment, the 2 boats that continued their approach may have been operating under direct orders from a shore-based IRGCN commander who either didn't have real-time situational awareness or refused to believe the engagement had already been lost. Communications intercepts suggested conflicting orders were being transmitted, one frequency ordering withdrawal, another demanding the attack continue. This is the fog of war, and it cost them. At 0653, Venom 1-2 arrived. The second Viper immediately engaged the 2 remaining hostile boats. 1 Hellfire each. Both targets destroyed within a 30-second window. The engagement, from the first DSK burst to the last Hellfire impact, lasted 12 minutes. The surface of the Persian Gulf in that sector was covered in wreckage. Fuel slicks, debris fields, 5 IRGCN fast attack craft destroyed. 1 disabled and adrift. 1, the lead boat hit by .50 caliber fire, was later recovered by Iranian naval forces. The patrol boat sustained minor damage. Shrapnel from the initial machine gun burst had struck the forward equipment mount. No US casualties. All 10 crew members were uninjured, but the aftermath was anything but simple. Within hours, Iran's foreign ministry issued a statement claiming the IRGCN boats were conducting a routine patrol and that the US had initiated aggression in Iranian territorial waters. Satellite imagery later confirmed the engagement took place in international waters. The patrol boat was 4.2 nautical miles from the nearest Iranian territorial boundary. The Pentagon held a press briefing within 36 hours. The official statement described the incident as a proportional defensive response to hostile fire against a U.S. Navy vessel operating lawfully in international waters. Footage from the patrol boat's onboard cameras and the Viper's targeting pod was released to select media outlets. But here's what the official narrative didn't emphasize: the speed of the U.S. response, 7 minutes from alert to helicopter arrival, exposed a capability that CENTCOM had been quietly developing. Pre-positioned, quick reaction forces specifically designed for the Strait of Hormuz scenario. The Baton's helicopters weren't on standby by accident. They were staged specifically for this type of encounter, based on intelligence assessments that predicted an escalation in IRGCN provocations. Iran noticed. Leaked assessments from Iranian military sources indicated that the IRGCN immediately began revising its fast boat doctrine. The assumption of a 15-minute response window, which had governed their harassment tactics for years, was no longer valid. Insurance rates for tanker traffic through the strait spiked 14% in the following week. 3 major shipping companies temporarily rerouted vessels around the Cape of Good Hope, adding 10 to 14 days to their journey. At the United Nations, Iran demanded an Emergency Security Council session. Russia backed the request. China abstained. The session was held, but produced no resolution. And within CENTCOM headquarters in Tampa, Florida, analysts were already gaming the next scenario. Because the 12-minute engagement proved 2 things simultaneously. First, the US Navy could protect its assets in the strait faster than anyone believed. Second, the speed of that response left almost no room for de-escalation. 7 minutes from alert to Hellfire impact. 7 minutes in which diplomacy, communication, and judgment were compressed into windows measured in seconds. The patrol boat returned to Bahrain that evening. The crew was debriefed for 11 hours. The lieutenant who made the initial weapons-free call was later commended, and also questioned about whether defensive protocols had been exhausted before engagement. His answer, according to personnel involved in the review, they shot at us. There is no protocol left after that. 3 IRGCN officers were reportedly reassigned within the month. One shore-based commander, the one believed to have issued the conflicting attack order, was removed from operational duty entirely. But the deeper consequence played out over months, not days. The Strait of Hormuz didn't get safer. It got quieter. And in military intelligence, quiet is not the same as safe. Quiet means recalculation. Quiet means the next provocation won't look like a swarm of fast boats. It will look like something the Navy hasn't trained for yet. Pentagon analysts modeled 14 alternative escalation scenarios in the wake of the incident. In 6 of them, the engagement expanded beyond the immediate area. In 2, it triggered direct Iranian missile strikes on regional U.S. bases. The 12 minutes in the Strait proved that the line between incident and war is thinner than most people realize. Stay vigilant, stay informed. I'll see you in the next one.